Well, right, and for those watching, you'll be able to kind of see the graphic here on your screen. If you're just listening, I'll try to explain it. So the graphic breaks down the four major leagues. So the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL. And it gives them their total revenue. This is from 2023, so the most recent calendar year. NFL's 18.7 billion. These are all billions. 18.7. MLB and NBA are tied at 10.9, and then there's the NHL at 6.8. Still not a small number, but definitely a third of what the NFL is, right? And then it breaks down each of those leagues, revenue chunk into what percentage comes from where, and there's 5 categories: national TV/media, ticket sales, team sponsors, concession/parking, and local TV/media. And it breaks down into those 5 categories for all these leagues. And there were a couple things that jumped out to me, at least, and I think very similarly to you, is the NFL is 66% of its revenue comes from the national TV and media, right? So that's their billion-dollar TV deals with Fox and with CBS and with NBC for Sunday Night Football, and now with Amazon for Thursday Night Football. Like, Amazon wrote them it was like a $10 billion check for like the next 10 years or something. Like, That's absurd. That's absurd. So 66% coming from national TV and media, and only 1% coming from local TV and media, right? So there's not like a local, Pittsburgh sports net that has the Pirate games. There's nothing like that for the Steelers or the Vikings or the Rams or whatever. But it's still easily accessible, right? Like, you don't need a local TV and media because the NFL's done such a good job to monetize on a national scale, but still make it available to every person on every TV set, right? Every person, you can put an antenna on the roof and you're going to have CBS, NBC, and Fox, right? Like, it is easily accessible for everybody with a TV. Very easily accessible. Because on the flip side, the MLB, which thrives off local TV and media, right? Like, the reason the Yankees were so good in the late 90s and early 2000s was because they had easily the highest amount of revenue coming from a local TV, the Yes Network, right? That's why they were able to buy all the good players. That's why they were able to go out and get A-Rod. That's why they were signed to sign Jeter and Pettit and Burnett and all those guys, because they made so much from the Yes Network. 23% of the MLB's revenue is local TV and media. That's absurd. It's only 3% behind national TV and media. Think about it. How often do you see a national game on? It's Sunday Night Baseball, Monday Night Baseball, some Thursday Night Baseball.
Yeah, every now.
It's usually 1 or 2 games per each of those nights. So it's not a common thing to have a national TV game on.
And even then, you're still not drawing the masses to a TV set when there is a game on national television. Like,
right.
Nobody's going to and running to a TV set to put on the Yankees in primetime.
Right. And so and one of my other gripes about the MLB, I'm like, we don't need 162 games. Shrink it to 100 games. You want to know why? Because you want to know why they won't? Because 31% of their revenue is from ticket sales. That's the highest chunk of their revenue split is from ticket sales. So they need asses in seats. They can't say, that's fine. We don't need an extra 62 games of that, right? Like, they need every penny of those people sitting in the seats. Something else that kind of stood out to me, I didn't expect like concessions and parking to be such a big chunk. Like, I know the price gouging's absurd. You're paying $10 for a beer, $40 to park. I understand that there's a ton of money going into that. I didn't expect that amount. Right, like for all of these, even the NFL, 6%, that's still not small. MLB, 10%, NBA, 8%, hockey's the highest at 12%. Like, I didn't expect it to be that large of a chunk.
Yeah. The one thing, too, and it always makes me upset, and I've seen it a bunch this year, and I'm sure I've said it to you, and I've said it to everybody I've watched a game with, whether that's baseball, hockey, a little bit NBA, but the sponsorships on the jerseys themselves. I hate it. I think it looks unprofessional.
You're not
I
a
don't
fan.
like it. But they're trying to grasp at anything where they can grab a little bit extra revenue. So, like, on the Pirates jersey, having the sheets on the arm. Or I think the worst one is the Marlins. They have the ADT logo, the home security system, and it's a giant patch on their arm. Like, can we stop putting sponsorships on the actual jersey? But then you look at this and you're like, that's why they're doing it. Because all of these other revenue streams are getting lower for them. Attendance is down for the MLB. Attendance is down in the NHL. So they're putting the PPG logo on the helmets for the NHL games.
Correct.
Like, they are trying to put sponsorships everywhere to get as much money as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would expect this to actually change. I think the NBA will jump up closer to the NFL in terms of the national TV and media. They just signed like a, something $100 billion deal for the next 10 years or whatever. But I think it was NBC for the rights to NBA games. So that number, that 41% is going to jump up. NHL to me is the most concerning because 44% coming from ticket sales. Like,
if you're not selling out the stadium consistently,
you're screwed. You're point blank screwed.
I mean, that's the thing too. The Penguins, for example, have done a great job at selling out, console and PPG, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, doing that consistently for what they play 82 games in the NHL for a season.
I think so, yeah.
Like,
I think it's the same as NBA 82.
That's a ton of games where you have to rely on people coming out to see the team. And that's also putting the pressure back on the owner and the front office of the team, where if you start to slip up and you go on losing streaks and people stop buying tickets and people stop showing up to the arena, that is a real problem that's going to affect the team.
A really weird part about that too is like they have a lot of games on, your Mondays, your Wednesdays, Tuesday night or a Wednesday afternoon if you're baseball. It's like it's tough people to get to those, right? NFL, it's like Sunday, you're off. I know you're off. Screw you.
Yeah.
Unless you're a priest, you're off. Let's go, get here. Like, yeah.
That's the thing too. When it comes to the MLB, that I don't understand when they schedule the day games, and even some of these games, especially in Pittsburgh, though, even the night games, like a Tuesday night, that's the first pitch 6:40. Not many people are going to that unless Paul Skeens is pitching. You have to do something to make it like very, very interesting to get people to actually show up, buy a ticket, and sit in the seat.
Sure.
And that's where I think you have to lean in more and actually build somewhat of a competitive team. It's so much more important in baseball, in hockey, than it is in the NFL.
Yeah,
you can have a team like the Carolina Panthers go out and win one game a season. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if nobody shows up.
Well, that's the NFL's always understood it's a TV show first, and it's reflected in those numbers.
Yeah. Either way, that was interesting. I liked it.
Yeah, it was good. It was an interesting graphic. I'm glad you sent it. It was a good discussion.